thank you all. Thanks to my owners for being here. We are doing the Reverie Roundtable today. We have an amazing group of guests. Happy to have them around. I think we'll have a good show. Um, if you're watching this on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you are enjoying this content, if you like having this content around, consider becoming a member, hitting that join button, supporting the channel. And that'll allow me to keep that YouTube channel up and running. So if you enjoy having this content daily, right? Well, then hit that follow button. Or remember, all the buttons, hit them, okay? All right, including the member button. So that helps us out a lot. Okay, so we'll start by introducing everyone, all right? Obviously, the first one to go will be Fabian Liberty Scott. Scott, thank you for being here. Nice to see you once again. Another week. We are back here together. How are you?
I'm doing great. Not going to be the only ANCAP on the panel tonight. Feels exciting. So I am Scott from Fabian Liberty. We are a duo stream anarcho-capitalist. We do news, reactions. I do a lot of debates. Saturdays we do fun days, and Sundays when I don't have my kids, we do philosophy reading night. So we get a little bit of everything from us. Thanks for having me once again. Always fun to get yelled at.
All right, thank you. All right. Next we have Briss, right? Briss, thank you for being around. How are you?
Doing great, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm all right.
That's good. So I guess you can just say my name is Bryce. Bryce, Bry. I don't care what anyone calls me. It's just Bryce Live. I am a new streamer, new affiliate. I just started streaming stuff that's going to target improving discourse and improving how well people research stuff and teach them about like heuristics and biases and different debate, either like failures or techniques and all kinds of good shit, like common subjects and common talking points, and try to build like some kind of like wiki or like comprehensive knowledge base so that all of us can stop being so dumb in a lot of these online panels, debates, and arguments and stuff, and just kind of, each of us contribute, let's stand on the shoulders of giants, right? Like, let's all be the giants. That's my kind of content anyway. And I got some spicy takes for this stuff tonight.
Thank you. Okay. Next we have Scrawn, which we haven't seen for a while, but they're back with us, joined in for the very last second, but very much appreciated. Thank you for filling our emergency hole. Okay, sorry. Anyway, Scrawn, thanks.
Yeah, all good. I hope I'll be able to build more value for like being a more worthwhile candidate for you to have on as a priority over filling a gap. But I'm fine to fill gaps until I really prove myself. So yeah, this is Scrawn. I'm Scrawn on all my socials. I don't have anything regular yet, but I'm working on it. I'm learning more about cameras and microphones. Hope to put more stuff out this year. I need to improve my setup before I put myself out there more. But my focus is on art, game design, culture criticism, that sort of stuff. I lean culturally progressive, and economically I'm very sensitive to like econ right stuff. So I tend to like to keep the reins from the commies wanting to do all kinds of wacky stuff basically, and say, hold on, let's have a look at property rights and stuff like that. But yeah, that's me.
Okay.
I can confirm that Scrawn is indeed good at filling gaps, boys.
So yeah, I didn't send you a invite at the last second. It was just that you said yes at the last second after.
Yes. No, what I meant by that is that I'm fine if you didn't accept me. That's what I meant by that.
Okay,
no,
fine.
You were totally fine. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Next we have our Dark Lord and Savior Doobie, who is not in possession of a watch. Doobie, thank you for coming through. Thank you for being a part of this, as always. How are you?
I'm okay. So I noticed Boj in chat, encouraging you guys to shame me for being late. That says that I'm not respecting people's time. But I think we all know that the only thing Boj is trying to do today on Valentine's Day, even given the fact that she has a lovely husband, is forget that she was old enough to remember the first Valentine's Day, you old fucking bitch. I'm joking, Boj, I love you. I'm Doobie, discord.gg/politics. Thank you.
Well, folks, they have that kind of relationship. Leave me out of it.
Just like Parkland, shots fired.
Oh, God. Yeah. Oh wow, amazing. All right. Leave me out of it. Someone Twitter like complain on Twitter about him, not me. Okay. All right. So off we go to last username. Last username. Thank you for being here, buddy. I have always missed you. Like you've been gone for so long, but you stopped by a few weeks ago, and we're happy to have you. And now you are back. How are you, last username?
Oh, I'm great. I'm great. Good to be here. Yeah. So I'm last username. I'm a liberal anarchist, and if you're wondering what that is, come to my channel and find out. Good to be here, Prime.
Okay, thank you. All right. Next, we have Top Dolphin, my man, Top Dolphin. Adam, back at it. How are you, Adam?
I'm doing good. Glad to be here. Had the day off. I get to sleep in a little bit, and I'm happy and excited. Twitch.tv/Top Dolphin if you want to follow someone who streams like once a week.
Okay. All right. Next, Stardust. Stardust is with here. You're with us another week. Stardust, thank you for being around. Thank you for putting up with all these assholes. Stardust, you're the only one here I can rely on, right? How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I am Stardust. I was born from the Twitch politics place, but I also do plenty of other things as well. So I do yell at people, and I do argue with people, and I have very meaningless arguments over Twitter as well, where people don't realize that they should stop engaging with me because I'm never going to stop talking. And I have arguments about virtually everything. I also host once a week Chaos Cast on Saturday, where we, I don't know what the fuck we do. I really don't. I never know what the fuck we're doing or what we're talking about. But it's a ride. It's not very political. Yeah, I'm here to give my opinions, my unwanted opinions. I know that I'm very annoying, and I know you can't stand my voice already, but that's totally okay because I'm here and I'm gonna volunteer my opinion, whether you like it or not. And thank you. Please check me out. Stardust. It's spelled exactly how it sounds on Twitch. So
You used to have an underscore in your name, right?
I did, and I used to have no vowels.
Yeah, I was gonna
Okay,
say, where did the vowels come from?
I was able to buy them. It was great.
Oh, that's awesome.
God bless capitalism.
Good one. I like it. That was good. All
That
right.
one's a knock over my head.
I had a better one. Anyway, whatever. Moving on.
No, your joke was not better than that.
Shut up.
Cope.
All right. Thank you.
You prepared that joke. That she had to react and give that joke.
What? I didn't prepare the joke. I was a joke reaction to him. I didn't prepare that joke. All right. Anyway, whatever.
You had like you had like 10, 20 seconds. And
I didn't have to.
This is like.
All right.
That was whatever, dude. I
Like,
stun-locked you with my Parkland joke. That shit was off the cuff.
Moving on. Wiggle, I guess. You're here. Say words.
Yeah, I'm here. Obviously that's telling you something about myself. The fact that on Valentine's Day I'm here, in the same position that you see me every week. Yeah, life is a lonely hellscape that you escape by going online and meeting online people. I've probably spoken to you guys a lot more recently. Like I feel like I see Scrawn a lot now, and we don't really hang out. So it's because of these panels. I see Scott and Doobie like every time I go to one of these things. I saw Stardust, I think last time I did one of these. Top Dolphin I see on the ABEs. It's nice to see Bryce again. I think I saw you like a couple weeks when we guys I don't even remember the topics anymore, but it was something where we were all yelling. We were all yelling, and it was about, and Prime was going on monologues. And then like last username, I haven't seen you in maybe a year. This is pretty crazy. All I think about when I think about you now is I think about like listening to you speak, and just sitting back and just being like bored out of my mind and being like, oh wow, there's somebody like you have a really nice voice. So when you're listening to a lot of people in Tiberius's space, it's nice to have someone with a nice voice and a nice audio setup, just like monologue, and that's how I remember you. Also, like, I don't know what happened with your cat, but I remember like you had this, like you have a cat that's like really dope, and that's about it.
What
Good
happened
to
to
see
your
you again too, Wiggles.
What happened to your cat? Last week's name. Do you still have your cat?
Which cat?
he has multiple cats. I know he had multiple cats.
I got one cat right now. She's
Okay.
that one right there.
All right. Well, all right. Fair enough. Okay. So let's get started. All right. First topic. All right. I think this is a creative one, so I think I deserve some accolades. In New York, a man is fighting local authorities to keep his pet pig. The pig's name is Ellie, and the town's authorities say that it is a public health hazard. Ellie's owner counters that she is well domesticated and not a nuisance to his neighbors. The owner has been charged with violating a zoning code which bans farm animals and may have to go to court to defend himself from the misdemeanor. Should Ellie be allowed to stay? If so, is it okay for people to just ignore certain laws that are inconvenient? Should it matter if the pig has never actually caused any trouble? Or is it important that the law be carried out equally among citizens regardless of circumstance? So, we're talking about a pet pig. I saw this story, and it felt to me like it's a bigger story than that, right? Like, the point is that there are laws that all of us decide that we don't really want to follow, right? Like, this is a pointless code or something like that, right? And usually it actually doesn't matter because we don't get caught, right? For others, right, who might be pirate stuff, like I don't know anything about that, but I hear some people do. That's a law that you're breaking, right? And usually there's like zero consequences for it, so it's like not a big deal. But sometimes you are caught. So this person was caught breaking a law, but is like, this is not a big deal. But should it matter, right? And if that's the case, right, if we allow this guy to break that law, then what about others, right? Whether small or large, and then who decides which one is important or not, beyond like the people who pass the laws. So we'll go around and we'll talk about this. Start with Wiggle.
Yeah, I think that it's pretty humorous how how far they're willing to go to stop this man from having his beautiful pig Ellie. The fact that like he brings up like I think he brought like a nurse's qualification that it helped with his anxiety. He's gone through all these steps. He's gotten like a printed out like notice saying that it's like a emotional support animal, and then they keep going after him at every step. They just don't want this man to have his pig, and I think it's indicative of exactly what you're describing. Is that it's not really about the danger. It's not really about any of that. It's more about the fact that he broke some sort of law, like this sanctity. This you defied what the state said. You defied this law. It doesn't matter how you did it. You had 6 months to get rid of this pig. We see it as like an intrusion on our laws. I think that's kind of stupid. It's kind of indicative of how stupid this system is. And then I love how they say, "Oh, this is for you." They're doing this. They're spending taxpayer money, and they're doing this for all of the people in this village. They're doing that to protect you. Why don't you just put it up to a vote? Why don't you just ask the people of the village at that point in time? Do you want to? Maybe all the people that signed those affidavits saying they love Ellie. Maybe more people come up and say, "We don't really give a shit about this pig. Give us more jobs." Stop charging us as much. Stop making us pay as much so that you can do this bullshit. And that's what I think. It's like they're the real pigs, all right? Not Ellie.
Oh wow! All right, fair enough. Scott.
Yeah, I love this topic because it's kind of like a perfect example of how the state is attempting to use its power to go after someone for the justification solely of maintaining state power. I say that because the lawyer that is against this gentleman put in official court documents that, if everyone ignored the zoning laws, we would live in a lawless society. It's all this is about, right? None of the property owners involved have any issues with this, right? It's not like he's got a 100-pound pig on a 3rd floor of an apartment building and like the people beneath him are like, dude, I can't sleep because this pig is like gargantuan and stomping around. No, he has sworn affidavits from his neighbors saying that they love the pig. The guy loves the pig. You know what I mean? Like, clearly it helped him. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. It's up for dispute whether or not it helped him get off of anxiety medication. But we know that anxiety medication can be horrible to some people. And the ability to get off of it and be able to function in society, which is very important. I don't want to tell people just to get off of medication. That's between you and your psychologist and psychiatrist. But That being said, like, this is a clear example of the state exercising its authority for petty reasons and petty means, because they have a stupid law on the books that doesn't differentiate pets and farm animals adequately. And instead of just admitting they're wrong and like having a quick vote, they reaffirmed it in January to like make sure that people knew, like, fuck you, you're not allowed to have your pet pig. It's completely fucking stupid. And in terms of should we disobey certain laws, agorism is based as fuck. And I believe that you have a moral obligation to violate immoral laws.
Briss.
Okay, I'm actually going to come at this completely differently. I think that this is an example when a poor man and another poor sentient being is being oppressed. I think we've created these breeds of animals that are wholly dependent on us. We imprint on them all kinds of things, from like being socialized into particular behavior, participating in society in like a very domesticated way, and they have either like a singular binary or like a pretty restricted purpose in existence, kind of like a lower caste would in terms of like really olden times when somebody was born into like a particular profession. And I think they're so dependent on us that it is really reminiscent of people that are moral patients. When you look at the UN update to the treatment of people, of children and people with disabilities, I think it's about time that we have a conversation about giving animals citizenship. I think that the domesticated animals should be given some form of like normal citizenship. I think wild and feral animals should be given some kind of like sovereign citizenship. And I think it's about time to have that conversation.
I guess Doobie doesn't want citizenship.
I can't say that I thought this would go in that direction. Okay, thank you for that. All right, Scrawn. That's perfect. Wow,
Riveting.
just amazing. All right, the best points Scrawn is making. Scrawn, you're muted. You're muted, Scrawn. Scrawn, you're. I
Nope.
still cannot hear you. Okay, we'll get back to you. Doobie.
So I know we're not supposed to respond to other people in our openings, but pets are property. Like, just stop, okay? So as for the topic, I think that, I can understand the emotional feel of this guy just wanting to keep his pet pig or whatever. But I think it was his responsibility to look into the laws of the place he was moving into when he moved there in 2019, because he had her before. He moved to this place in 2019. Suddenly, he's dealing with this rule that this community has that he disagrees with. Right? It was his responsibility to look into that. He didn't do it, so hey, move out or get rid of the fucking pig. And I am somewhat sympathetic, right? Because I really want a fucking monkey. I would love a pet monkey. I would absolutely love one. I would dress it up. I'd put, I'd cut its hair. I'd fucking get it like jewelry and shit. It'd be great. Okay. But in California, you can't have a monkey unless you have like a special permit and training, all this shit. I don't want to do all that shit. I just want a monkey. Right. So if I were to go out and get a monkey anyway, and the state found out that I was really emotionally dependent on my fucking pet monkey, right? And they just let me keep the monkey, right? Because they felt bad for me or something. Then what if my neighbors found out and they got a pet monkey, and their neighbors got a pet monkey? And people all over fucking California are getting pet monkeys, and suddenly we have like pet monkeys running all over the fucking place, eating dogs and shit. Like it's a recipe for disaster. You need to follow the rules. It's his fucking fault. Fuck this.
Okay. All right. Last username, buddy, please.
Yeah, so this is a good example of a law that is wrong. The law is wrong in this case. I don't think we say that enough, that laws can be wrong, right? This is, you can debate about what makes a law right or wrong, but whatever it is, clearly this is an example of a law that is wrong. It shouldn't be that way, right? This guy just has a pet. Nobody has a problem with the pet. His neighbors are fine with the pet. It's not causing any problems. The point of the law was some sort of archaic thing. It was to deal with like farm animals a long time ago. It's completely irrelevant to the situation. It's probably irrelevant to this age that we're in now. But it's still there, and it shouldn't be. And it's causing a serious problem. There are lots of laws that are wrong, and this is a good example of them. So yeah, this this guy should keep his pig, and we got to do something about the law. The law is the problem here. That's it.
Okay. All right, let's go to Top Dolphin.
Yeah. At the end of the day, when we set up our country, we said that everyone can decide the rules of their individual state, and if some state or city decides that they don't want to have pigs in that area, then you don't live there if you want to own pigs. I wouldn't say like last username is that like the law is wrong. I don't know if the law is necessarily wrong. I would say more that like maybe you should advocate for the law to be changed. And then if the law doesn't, if the people of the place don't want to change the law, then you move the fuck out because obviously like how you want to live and how these people want to live aren't compatible.
Okay, please, Stardust.
Sorry, I was eating a cracker.
How
This-
could you say that about Scott's people? Keep going.
Not just his
88.
people.
Go ahead.
Frick.
Mm.
Okay. So I do kind of agree that the guy should have looked into the policies of that building before moving in with his pig. But I do feel bad for him. And I'm going to disagree with somebody. Somebody said that we should be advocating for citizenship for animals. Animals don't have the intelligence capable of like caring for themselves. That's why they're their property, right? It's like children are your property. Your own children are your property. And they're not your property until they're 18. And because animals will never get as smart as an 18-year-old, at least, you know, most won't. That animal's your property. Does that mean that you have a right to mistreat it? No. You should treat it well. Maybe just because it's like not as smart as you, you should still treat it well. And I do feel bad because I don't understand like what health hazard there is, right? One of the arguments that this person is making is that there are health hazards to having this pig around. I would be curious to know what those health hazards are. I do think that they should change the law because pigs are smarter than dogs. And somehow we still eat pigs, but they're smarter than dogs. Yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts. I have very mixed feelings on this, honestly. I think the man was irresponsible in not checking really the building's policies, but I also do think that the law itself is really fucking stupid. Unless they can tell me how there's a health hazard there. So
Smart as 8. Okay. All right. Anyway, thanks, Ron.
So we should start eating dogs.
He's in the.
I mean, I'm down for it. I'm down for eating dogs.
Just transferred him, and he moved back out. All right, let's try it again. Scrawn, can you hear us? And can you respond?
If he's getting the RTC not connecting thing, he needs to restart his Discord application and then join another voice channel and then rejoin this one.
That's what he did. He like was in watch party, and then he
he needs to restart the application.
You
Yeah.
might have to right click close in the system tray.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh okay. Well, could someone communicate that to him? All right. We'll just move on.
All right, give me a second. Yo, Scrawn. No.
All right. Let's. All right. So open panel while we work that out. Go ahead.
Okay, I think Stardust, you said something that's not only a bad thing to say, but I don't think that it's correct. Children are not our property, right? I understand where you're going in the direction with it, with regards to like what you meant. But I think in terms of taking you literally, we obviously know that children are not property. That's why we have children's services and things like that intervene, because we have situations where these are people, these are sentient beings, both with intellectual capacity, like capacity for emotion and suffering. So they're not
Sure.
property. They're not a physical object that has no sentience, right? In the
No,
same
they're
way,
property.
you're actually making my argument for me. So if we treat children as property, then this makes it an even greater reason for us to treat animals as citizens.
No,
in
we
their own right
shouldn't
in
be
this new
comparing
context.
animals to
Because,
children.
hang on.
These are things.
No, we're not making the comparison there. It's an entirely different vector than comparing directly like animals to
Yeah,
children.
this is like bringing up
Hang on,
children in the conversation where you're talking about like the property of your plates or something.
Sure,
or your
I have
dinner
absolutely no
table.
problem just discarding that entirely. We can completely discard
Well,
that point
children are
entirely.
your property. It doesn't mean that they're any less human or they're less deserving of being treated correctly, but they are your property. They don't have the same rights that you do as an adult. So you
We
decide.
have emancipation,
Even
right? Like,
even
they are not just somebody's property just because they were born to them.
Well, it's
even
about their
even
capacity.
even like ANCAPs, which get like in trouble with this all of the time, don't consider children property. We consider them latent self-owners and parents as custodians of their children's rights. Like I wouldn't go so far as to say, like I'm with Bryce. I hate to say it. But I'm with him in this sense that like I get what you're trying to say, but I think the language that you're using is you're attempting to convey something, but you're not quite hitting it on you're not quite hitting the nail on the
if-
head.
Just want to check on
I
the
think,
you
I think we
see-
can kind of.
Your audio is working, Scron.
Cool, great.
You want to give your opening statement, I guess?
Yeah.
That'd be
If that's fine, I can try
Yeah.
blitz through that. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, cool.
And then
Yeah, so-
Doobie after that. Go ahead.
Yep. Yeah. So on a micro level, people sign affidavits. I think this is something that you would appeal for an exception somehow. Basically, I would bet on those affidavits holding up over Rudy Giuliani's bogus election fraud claims in this issue. If this is a matter of local zoning rules, it can be handled by local people. They should go out and protest, sign a petition, and appeal to their local council to make exception for this pig and start a conversation about laxing their pet rules. I think if you're allowing dogs anywhere, that already comes with quite a range of what you're willing to allow. And barking is worse noise pollution than oinking. On a macro level, what's the harm being done? It's one of those situations where you really have to reconsider the law. Yeah, and I have a criticism of the man with the pig who said, I'm hoping this sets a precedent for people, to start understanding these are pets, he said. These are not something you go home and slaughter and eat. I think it's fine for people to want pets that they eventually may want to slaughter and eat, basically. Yeah, I don't really like the projecting of some animal rights issue onto this. Yeah, I'm good to go from there.
Doobie?
So when I say pets are property, I mean that they're property in the way that a dinner table is property. Okay, I really think, bringing up children or even suggesting that they should be given some kind of like citizenship is ridiculous. Right? We
So you
wouldn't be talking about
understand that
giving a
there's
dinner
a-
table citizenship, right? This is a
You-
thing. It's a product, even, right? That we've
it's
guided
not.
the evolution
We
of
don't think
to
like that
benefit
anymore.
ourselves. I mean,
We
yes,
haven't thought like
I'm
that in
thinking
about,
about I'm
30
thinking like this
years.
right now, and this is what people think like
Wow.
when it comes to cows and chickens and other pigs, right? And unfortunately for me, frogs, right? These are all products that we make, we raise and we
Well,
eat.
okay, let me amend my
Right? So
statement.
suddenly,
People that are not
this
resolute in
this
their dogma,
dude, this
don't think that
irresponsible
way.
piece of shit who didn't look into the laws of the place he was moving into, him feeling some fifis for what's typically bacon, doesn't change that. So these are products.
I
So-
don't think it's
So
the
the
rights.
rights-
Anything
no.
he's
It
not
doesn't
a
matter
very
whether this pig has
responsible-
rights or
respond to
not.
him.
Like this is
pet
not about the
parent.
rights
Let's
of
go
the
to
pig.
last username, then Stardust.
Okay, we're trying to make this about pig rights, and I don't think that's really what it's about. Like, even if the pig was a non-living object, just some object that he really loved, like his classic guitar or something, and the city was trying to make him get rid of it for no particular reason, this would still be a problem. Okay, this is about the rights of a person to just do whatever, to do something that's not harming anyone. The pig rights is an interesting discussion, but I think it's really a different thing. Like, so let me ask people this. The people saying like, well, this guy should have known the laws and laws are laws and we vote on laws, blah, blah, blah. If the rule was like, not that there's no pigs allowed, but there's no, black people allowed to live in this neighborhood, would you say the same thing? Would you say, well, should have read the rules?
Makes sense
Too
to
bad
me.
for you.
Well, actually,
Man,
so if
how
this
does
were like
everybody
legal,
just like know that's where this conversation is gonna go? When
It's
you
fine,
read the
we can go
topic?
there.
Obviously.
we can
Obviously,
go
you
there.
could've-
You
people
could have
aren't
said no
listening.
cops allowed.
So
you know?
I
You could've had
actually
that
like
analogy.
the comparison of children to property, and I think even though children are obviously not property, trying to understand like
You're so lucky you didn't
why,
get cut
why
off
they
there.
aren't, like what the difference are very awesome, right? So the difference, children kind of are a little bit similar to property in that like they usually belong to someone and they have a caretaker. I wouldn't say belong in the ownership way, but the difference is that we recognize they have human rights, right? the difference between a guitar and a black person in this thing is that we recognize that black people have human rights and guitars don't. So we can't tell black people they can't live in an area, but we can tell guitars that they can be in an area. The same way we can tell this pig that it's not human. It doesn't belong. It doesn't have to be in this area.
But
It's
but
not.
the person who
You
has the
understand
pig
that
is a
property.
human.
So
It's
hang on,
not
hang on. The
property.
reason why I bring up the reason
is
why
property.
that animal
It-
the reason
it's
why
a matter
of
animal
its
rights is
property.
so important
No,
in
I'm
this
saying
case
a
is because
child is
we
not
have
property. It's
hang on.
like
Yo,
you,
I recognize that, but like the
He
difference
already-
is that
he
we
already
afford human
clarified.
rights
So
to
you
children.
yeah, but
guys
right?
you
understand
guys
that
are
what
missing the
separates
larger point. Is that like it's the capacity? It's like a child has the capacity. I think you yourself were saying this, Stardust, is that a child has the capacity to get to the point where they can make these decisions themselves eventually. All like we like to believe that all humans have this capacity, and when you look at humans that don't have that capacity, let's say there's you're born with some sort of defect that prevents you from having that. We still view these people with a sense of pity because they're human. Of the idea of well.
No.
There's a bad luck of the draw.
No, we don't
but these, at
just
the end
treat
of the
these
day, these are
people with a
humans.
sense of pity. We treat these people as human, right? Because the capacity
That's what I
isn't
just
the
said.
issue at large.
We
It's
treat
the
them as
ability for
you're
people to
getting
be
as
like
human.
literally
Again,
be human.
Maybe
Right?
last
Like, I don't think we
username.
would say that if aliens came to the planet that we would like
Right.
give
You're
them
talking
human
about
rights,
aliens now, okay?
right?
Like
No, we're not talking
again-
about aliens. Listen, the thing
Again,
that we have to talk
again,
about is the fact that
again,
what the
But
criteria
before
that
you do that,
distinguishes
Stardust was in line. So let's get Stardust, and then you guys can jump at it.
All right.
Yeah. So I can see the argument that last username is making, and I think he wanted to clarify on one part of it, right?
I think you guys are just missing the point, because even if the pig is not alive, I was using the example of the guitar or whatever, any other object, if the community were just saying like you're only allowed to you're not allowed to have any objects, you have to like live in a straw hut and you can't wear clothes, like that would be also ridiculous and unfair, even though there's no living things involved. So it's not about the rights of the pig, it's about the rights of this person to be free and to live how he wants, right? That's
No,
the
what
issue.
you're
But
saying
if
is it's the
community
right
was
it's
saying
right of
they-
this
they
person.
wanted to all live in straw huts, they can do it.
Still my turn. Still my turn. Sorry. Sorry, I don't mean to yell at you guys like that.
Okay.
So-
No, don't hurt my feelings
They
a little
deserve
bit.
it. They deserve it. Okay.
No, I
fine.
enjoy it.
okay.
It's fun. Yell at me more.
All right. So, if that is the case, though, right? This person has this person should have the right to live their life the way that they want to with the property that they want. But when one property poses a risk to the people that live around that person, that's kind of like inhibiting their rights to live as they want.
It doesn't
right?
seem to be the
This
case
is-
though.
No, this is what I was trying to say earlier. It doesn't matter if you are, let's say, more libertarian in your idea of like what of property rights and this individual. And the reason it doesn't matter in this case is we could make those arguments if the community didn't want him to have the pig. But the fact of the matter is here is even if you are a left-wing person that believes in like communal democracy and like hierarchical structures and what the community wants, even if you believe that and you don't have a strong belief or standard of private property rights and individual liberty, in this case, he has sworn affidavits from neighbors saying
Sure.
we love.
But those
listen,
neighbors
listen.
don't understand the health risks.
Listen,
like
there's
that's
no
the main
health
point
risk.
that I'm trying
Pigs
to
are
make.
cleaner than
Well,
dogs.
that's what no. If you read the article,
I
that is what
did
they
read.
are claiming.
I'm a little.
That's
yeah,
what they're claiming.
Okay, Stardust.
They're making it up.
Stardust, you got it right. This is what
They're
happened.
making it up. But how do you? Okay, how are they
Stardust.
making it up?
Well, let me explain it to you. What
Okay.
happened is someone came into his home, right?
Mhm.
A representative of the state came into his home because he was trying to build
Get a permit.
get some building permits. They saw the pig and they said, "You're not allowed to do that." And he was like, "Cool story, whatever." And then they came back 6 months later and checked and said, "Why is this pig still here?" Now, there's no health issues whatsoever from a pig because pigs are cleaner than dogs. They are cleaner animals than dogs. The difference is that this is the justification for the broad law about farm animals in general. And the fact of the matter is that this is a bad law that the community doesn't want, the property owners don't want, the individual doesn't want, and I'm sure the pig doesn't want to be taken away from the owner that she cuddles up with on the couch when they're watching TV. No party involved wants this pig gone except for the state themselves. And the justification that they give is twofold. One is a health and safety issue, which they have no evidence to support, and all of the evidence goes to the contrary. And the second is we demand that you follow laws that are unjust, because if you follow if you don't, we'll live in a lawless society. Those are the only.
The second one's pretty weak. So I will give you that the second one is incredibly weak to me. I don't like the second argument. The first one I would need to see like where they're getting that from. Now you're saying that it's because they applied this to all farm animals, and I could certainly see that having a farm animal could be a health risk.
Having a cow shitting in your living room might be an issue.
That would be a health
this
risk.
law was probably created to stop
exactly.
like farmers from like having really cheap farms where they house the animals in their house or something and making a huge mess. Which is obviously not what this guy's doing, right? The pigs are not spreading the plague. There's billions of pigs all over that would live with, and farms. They're not going to spread disease or anything, right?
It's like last username was saying earlier about like this doesn't even seem to be like a problem in 2022. So the idea that it would get to this point if we allowed everyone to have pigs in their homes, that we'd get to this point where there'd be this great large scale like problem we would all have to deal with. They have to justify that, because maybe that was true when the laws were made, but like last username saying, would that even happen today? And then what is the idea that the state wouldn't be able to act at the worst possible moment? Like at the worst possible moment, everybody owns a pig, and this is something that everyone chose to collectively do, and then you're saying that the state wouldn't be able to solve it then, so that's why they need to act now when there's one person. And like it's like, what is the actual damage that is caused, and how are they demonstrating that it's that demonstrable for one person to have one pig?
And it's pretty disturbing that this lawyer is clearly going after this guy on public money. And
feels like
for reasons that they're not being very honest about, right? Like the reasons they're saying are obviously bullshit.
Isn't that just being irresponsibly fear-mongering? Like, how do you know that? Like, I would love to know how you're inside the mind of this lawyer to infer.
All I know is that the reasons that they're giving are not.
So we know that you have an existing bias because you just said that you're a liberal anarchist, right? So we know that there's a built-in bias towards laws.
Not willing
we
to
can't
tell
just
us
take
at
it
the same
face
time.
value.
You realize that, right?
Something nefarious, right?
Let's go to Doobie and then Scrawny.
Yeah, so there are a lot of issues. So Wiggle, so you're saying that this isn't an issue in current day. Maybe it was back then, but it's not an issue now. So hey, they're exaggerating this. Well, it could be that it's not an issue right now because it's illegal to have a pig in this area, right? And so if they remove that law for this one person, right? I don't think they'd apply it that selectively.
Well, you have to prove that it's not an issue today simply because it was illegal.
This is silly. This is like saying, oh well, hey, if we
do you believe that more people own pigs today than they did?
People don't typically own tigers. People don't typically own tigers today. So if we made it legal to own tigers in California,
we're talking about pigs.
Yeah, okay.
So why are you switching to tigers?
Hold on,
Doobie.
But you're being dishonest because you're pretending that this. You're pretending.
I live in New York.
You're pretending that this is specifically about this one dude, right? But what we're actually talking about, right, is this rule being Is this rule being applied to the entire community, to the entire city or state or whatever the fuck it is, right? And if this were removed and people were allowed to have farm animals in their homes and on their property, the people are going to do that, and there's a chance at some point down the road it could become an issue. So to avoid that becoming an issue, right, the state is nipping it at the bud and not allowing that to happen in the first place.
So make a better law.
Totally
fine.
Demonstrate.
Wait, I'm not done. Please. Demonstrate that it'd be a problem if people had like tigers in their home. I guess.
No,
I don't know.
that's why I'm saying you're strawmanning.
You're being silly.
I've never talked about tigers.
You're being silly, right?
And you're making it about tigers.
Okay, well, what about chimps? Right, so typically people don't have chimps.
Why would I be talking about chimps?
I want a fucking chimp. I want a fucking chimp. Can you demonstrate that it'd be a bad idea for everybody to have a chimp? It's so silly.
Why are you talking about chimps?
Because that's not the only thing we're talking about. We're talking about the principle. We're talking about the principle here, right?
Why are we talking about the principle? No, you asked a question. I'll answer your question.
The individual is not talking about the individual is not talking about the principle. We're talking about Ellie the pig.
We'll respond, and then we'll go to Scott.
I'm saying this is what they do. This is what they do. This is what the doobies of the world do. Is the individual in question only cares about Ellie. They're not this crazy activist talking about tigers or chimps. They're talking about Ellie, the pig that helped them through what they call their divorce and their anxiety. But you want to make it about, oh, he's on the side of allowing people to have tigers in their homes. That's why you have to stop him. And you haven't demonstrated at any step along the way that the law is the reason why people in this region, in this village in New York, have less pigs now. Versus that it's just technological advancement, the growth of industrialization, the difference in jobs now compared to before. And you want us to believe it's simply because the state imposed a law. That's why we're better off now. And there's less people that have pigs that lead to these kind of complications. And it's not just society has advanced to a different point in time with different perspectives, and that's ridiculous to me.
You know how ridiculous you're saying right now? This you're basically
Fucking
saying,
doobies
right?
of the world.
Hold on, doobies.
You asked the question,
There are no
Dooby.
other
I just
doobies.
wanted to
Wait,
answer
hold
your
on. Yeah, but I'd like to respond to
Can I
what
answer
Wiggles
your
just said because it was really dumb. Please. So you're saying, hey, can you demonstrate that this thing being illegal is the reason that people don't have these pigs in their home?
Sorry,
Well, no, not really. But I mean, can we demonstrate that people not going out and murdering people at random is caused by murder being illegal, or people not going out and randomly stealing people's cars in the street is caused by there being a law against stealing people's cars randomly in the middle of the fucking street? No, right? But we can say that, hey, laws exist, right, to prevent bad outcomes, bad situations, right? So I don't think that I don't think you to make the argument, right, that hey, we might have just evolved as a society, right, and this is why rape and murder rates are down. So hey, maybe we don't need those laws anymore. Or
yeah, now you're talking about rape and murder.
Yeah, I'm
versus
talking about you implying that we can't know, right, and that it's unreasonable to say that the reason people don't have pigs is because it's illegal to have a fucking pig. Of course, that's why, right?
No, I'm saying that you have to demonstrate that's the
you need to
reason why.
demonstrate that we've evolved as a society to a point where people don't want fucking pigs in their house, right? In places where pigs are legal to have, people have fucking pigs. Right, so and you trying to make this specifically about this one man's pig, I think is really disingenuous because that's not really what we're talking about.
That's
right?
kind of what
they're not talking about carving out
that's what the village is talking about.
A specific exception in the law for this one person. They're talking about the law generally. Unless you're saying that they should just apply the law differently for this one guy, right? And that's it, right? And you think that's where it ends, but I don't think that's where it ends. I don't think anybody thinks that's where it ends because what stops the next person from saying, "Hey, he has a pig, I want a pig." Like what?
Doobie, you've made like 30 comments that people like need to respond to at this point. So
go for it,
first, you asked what is the difference between a tiger and a chimpanzee and a potbelly pig, and it's very simple. I'm not asking you to do a ton of research. I just want you to pull up 3 Google tabs, right, and then put tiger mauls person in a Google search, and then put chimpanzee attacks human, right, and then don't put wild boar because that's a different type of pig. Put potbelly pig into the Google search and you will find the fucking reason why people feel differently about potbelly pigs that they keep as pets and chimpanzees that will literally rip your fucking nuts off and then rip your arm off and then beat you to death with your arm, right? There's obviously a difference here. And you know that you're being disingenuous by drawing that comparison.
Actually, no, because
that being said,
if that's what you're looking for, Google searches. Google search right now, potbelly pig in Puerto Rico, and you'll find that they're having massive issues with potbelly pigs overrunning areas of cities because people have them as pets.
Doobie, right? And it's actually super awesome that you bring that up because potbelly pigs and different pigs actually changed massively when introduced into a wild environment. As a matter of fact, there are many species of pigs that only grow tusks when they're out wild in the environment and do not grow tusks when they're domesticated. So their behavior changes radically to that. It's actually really cool because they use the tusks so that they can elevate themselves when they sleep and then they gore people and shit with them, right? So there are dangers to certain big pigs, just like there are to fucking rabid dogs or, feral cats and things like that we've domesticated as pets. So that's one thing, I guess.
Yeah. So you agree with me then? So if we did have if potbelly pigs did overrun an area, like am I echoing?
You unmuted yourself. Don't worry, I got you. Keep going.
Oh, weird. Okay. So if potbelly pigs did overrun an area like they have in other places where these things were legal, right, to keep as pets, right, and then over time, because they're in the wild now, they started developing tusks and their behavior started changing, right. This could definitely be a fucking problem, right? You could have an issue with children being gored by fucking pigs in the street because we wanted this one dude to have this exception, and then after we gave him this exception, other people wanted that exception too, so they decided to get rid of the law.
How many chains in the slippery slope would you like to add? Just let me know.
This
so I
isn't
can
a slippery
track them all.
slope. Hold on, how's
sure
this a
there's
slippery
Not a
millions of
slippery
people.
And
slope.
hold on,
that
just
this
no,
is
it's
saying
not.
if
I
they
think
keep
this is
pig,
like, I think this
and then
is
we all
the, oh
keep
god,
pigs, and then the pigs all get
not
loose,
all.
and
It
the
doesn't need
pigs
to be all.
get out into the wild, and then children start getting gored. Like that's not a slippery slope. You're so full of shit.
We
you're
can
fucking
look
sure
to other
there's lots of
places
places
where
in the world
hold on.
where
We
these
can look
pigs
to
are
other
legal.
places where that is
all of those
where
places
exactly
will work.
exactly
here,
that has
the
happened.
corollary
Okay,
here,
so pretending that
exact
this is
example you wanna
like
use
insane
pit
is
bulls.
just
What
extremely
Doobie's
dishonest.
saying is basically comparable to pit bulls. When you're trying to make this example about like the
Yeah, those should be
potential
illegal
one
too.
kind of breed, yeah, it's obscene. You're saying
Why is
that
that
because
obscene?
there's a risk because you want to ban all, so you want to ban all dogs. You understand like what you
I
were
want to ban all
saying.
pit bulls. Pit bulls are
Okay,
responsible
but
for the
that's not the
vast,
exact
vast
same thing.
majority
This is not,
of
you're
dog
not
bites
following.
and
You're just
maulings.
interrupting me now before I'm even completing my thought.
Oh,
What you're
well,
actually
go on.
saying here is you want to ban all dogs because what we're saying here is that there's pot-bellied pig, which don't pose a direct threat. There's no like horns, like everything that we were delineating specific characteristics of this breed of pig, right? So what you were actually saying, you're saying, well, there's other breeds of pigs, so it means like once you get that kind of pig, other people are gonna get they're gonna get other kinds of pigs, and there's gonna be all kinds of these other kinds of pigs. So you're literally saying we need to ban all dogs because pit bulls are a danger.
Well, in
No,
Venezuela,
I'm saying, hold on. People
You're
like
not
to do
allowed to have
the wait 1 second. People like to do the 1350 meme, right? And pretend that this is like genetic. But with pit bulls, it actually is genetic, and it's 650, right? So they're 6% of the dog population, and they make up for 50% of the attacks on people, right? Most, if you look at the statistics, most
Inconsistent with your
maulings.
argument. So
No, it's not. No, it's not. So I'm not saying, hey, we
what?
ban
How
all.
can you show
I'm
me
not
this
saying we
the
ban all.
stats on the pit bull?
I gotta
Google
remember
it.
the
Google it,
650.
bitch. Okay, Google it, bitch. So
yeah.
I'm
sure.
telling you,
So
I'm not saying
telling
we
you that
ban
there's nothing.
all
Pot-bellied pigs
dogs, right? There
don't
doesn't
pose
seem
a
to be a
threat.
good reason to ban chihuahuas right now, right? But
Do you know
given
anything
that
about
pit
the
bulls,
pot-bellied pig?
given that we know that pit bulls were genetically
You know
bred
lots about
to
pit
behave in a
bulls. Do you know
certain
anything
way.
about pot-bellied
Oh my
pigs?
Okay.
god!
Oh my god.
Yes.
You're interrupting him now. Come on. Do we finish your point and then I want to scroll on.
Well,
Okay.
probably because
So given,
everyone's
oh god,
attacking him for all these sidebars that he's having.
Doobie,
And now he's
Doobie, hurry
they're
up. And
not
then
sidebars. You
and
guys
then
just
go
having trouble
scroll.
following it, and I don't. It's okay.
no
So
one's having trouble.
given that we understand that pit bulls were genetically bred, their evolution was guided, right, for them to behave in this specific way, and we can see now that they're behaving in this specific way in the stats of dog bites and dog attacks versus the percent of the population, and how they behave compared to other dog breeds. I think there's a good argument for making pit bulls illegal across the board. And many places do exactly that, and I think it's totally fine, right? And when it comes to pot-bellied pigs, we can see the consequences if we look to other places where they've been illegal, right? And they have overrun places because people let them out, they escape, whatever, and they end up breeding out in the wilderness, and their behavior changes, and they grow tusks, and they start fucking goring people, and it's a massive problem for the community, right? So we can look at exactly that and say, oh shit, lots of people start getting these things, and they go into the wild, and their behavior changes, and they start getting tusked like pigs do when they are in the wild, like Scott just explained. This could be a fucking problem. So to stop that from becoming a problem, you make it illegal for people to have fucking pigs.
Scrawn.
Circa dog.
No, Scrawn. And maybe last year's gonna have something to say. And Top Dolphin. All right.
Okay, I'm less interested in Doobie's slippery slope problem, but I will say this. I don't think we have to go there, but okay, the list 650 meme is my new favorite meme. So long as I can shoot a pit bull breaking the NAP, though, and eat it in front of their slave master, I'm okay with that. I think there's a worthwhile question if there is a predatory lawyer taking advantage of getting to act with government endorsement. The lawyer is being paid, probably on government money, and so the motivation is worth questioning. I really think, this is like a toxic mix when you get this kind of, incentive going on. So I think this is a failure of the local council, probably, who just passed the buck along rather than listen to local people and actually help local policy change to allow a person to have a pig when they have medical professionals advocating. And maybe that's the real question here. Should medical professionals be allowed to push for exceptions to laws so we don't actually do away with the general law? And we allow guide dogs where normally we wouldn't have dogs. I'd rather see that line pursued than the local council lawyering up against this man. This sounds like lazy governance. Sounds like lazy governance, and reveals, I think, a common problem with local council members and their tendency to pass the buck along. People will be quick to show when private enterprise is callous. I think this is a perfect example of when government is being callous.
Last username.
Crit.
First, let me say I'm amazed that Doobie's racism is not even bounded by species. It will apply as racist to different breeds of dogs as well. Pit bull laws are laws to please stupid people, right? People see a problem and they don't want to think about it any more deeply than, well, I see certain dogs that look scary, and I'm afraid, so just outlaw, just ban these dogs. It's probably true that pit bulls cause more, do more attacks than other breeds of dogs. The question is that because of the nature of pit bulls, or is it because that the people who tend to get pit bulls as dogs are also the people who tend to not train their dogs very well? And so it's just a correlation, but not a causation, right? Kind of extremely important subtlety that usually is ignored in these sort of knee-jerk laws like that. It doesn't really matter. You could easily make a better law that says you're not allowed to have a dangerous dog. You have to train your dog, or your dog is not allowed to attack other people or something. It's not hard to come up with a sensible law that wouldn't needlessly discriminate against dogs just based on their breed. But people don't want to think about it that carefully. They want to just do some knee-jerk thing. And what Doobie's talking about with this pig is the same thing. You could imagine some potential problem with pot-bellied pigs going out of control, but it doesn't seem like that's definitely going to happen if we just let people have pot-bellied pigs as a pet. It doesn't seem like they're really popular. So let's just let that happen. Let's just allow it. And if there's a problem with pigs going out of control, then we can look at maybe having a more specific law, like you're not allowed to have a dangerous animal, or you're not allowed to do certain things with your animal that would cause problems. But these sort of ridiculous, like super simplistic laws are just stupid. And I honestly can't believe that Doobie's defending them. I'm kind of skeptical that it really is. He's not just being a shit, but whatever.
Okay, let's go to Top Dolphin.
Okay, oh god.
Let's go. We'll go to Top Dolphin and Fabian Liberty. And okay, Swan.
Yeah, so a major problem I hate with this conversation right now that we're having is we keep moralizing the fuck out of this law for no reason. All right? Not all laws are based on moral truths. This is fact. It's a law that you need to drive on the right side of the road. And we don't do that because driving on the right side of the road is more moral than driving on the left side of the road. We drive on the right side of the road to help society to function so that people can get along when they drive on the roads and make it easy, right? It's that simple. And I think like this law is another example of that. Owning pets isn't something that's necessary for society, but it's pretty great. And a lot of times we allow certain animals to be pets and other animals not to be pets, because it just allows people to get along more. I also want to talk about is like a lot of people have been using this fallacy that like this guy has signed affidavits. That means like the whole community is behind him. That's not necessarily true.
No, it's just his neighbors, the specific people that did the affidavits.
True.
Not like the whole community
You're
is
right.
behind
There are the people who live near him, right? But I'm sorry, like your 4 or 5 houses next to you isn't what makes the law for the city or the village in this case. It's the people who live in the village. And so if the people who live in the village were behind them, they could change the law, right?
But what have they said
The
about this
village, not
specific
an
case?
urban location.
Well, it doesn't matter. So if you could show me that everyone in the village wanted to change the law, then I would say change the fucking law, right? They could do that. They could move the classification of pigs from farm animals to pet animals, right?
The reason I brought up the affidavits from his neighbors is that none of the property owners involved have any issue with this pig. That's why I brought it up.
Doesn't matter.
It does matter because it means that there's no conflict. The only conflict.
What about the
is
building
between
owner?
the state.
I believe right?
I haven't heard nothing from this individual. I don't know this person's opinion. It wasn't mentioned in the article, and assuming that he was getting building permits, I would assume that he actually, now that I think about it, is the building owner. But that being said, I have some questions for you, Doobie, because it seems like what you're referencing is that, and you said this in the very beginning, which is that it was his duty to do some research on what the laws were, and that if he wanted to have his pet pig, he never should have moved into a community with that. And so I just think it's interesting because you said you live in California. Did you know that in California it's actually illegal for women to wear heels over 2 inches? Is it the duty of every woman in California to research this? And if she prefers to wear 2 inch, 2.1, 2.2 inch high heels, that if the state decides to use its authority against her to punish her and stop her from being a stripper with high heels, is it her problem? Are you against her being legally allowed to do that in the state of California?
It's the biggest
yeah,
fucking straw man I've ever heard
Wait,
in
hold
my
on.
life.
So first off, yes, actually, I think that if you're moving into a place, right, it's your responsibility to look up the regulations of that place and the rules that the people living there have come up with and had to put into in force through their representatives before you got there. I don't think you get to just show up somewhere and say, well, hey, yeah, I didn't know about your rules, so they just really shouldn't apply to me. I don't think that makes
So in
any
like
fucking
San
sense.
Francisco, it's okay for the state, for example, to fine people and to go after people if they store anything in their garage that isn't a car, because in the city of San Francisco, it's illegal to, let's say, put your winter clothing in the garage as storage. Is that something that just everyone should be like, well, you should have known in San Francisco, you're not allowed to put boxes of things you're not currently using in your own garage and your own property, and it's just their fault for not doing that research?
So you basically asked me the
Yes.
same question twice. I'm going to say yes again, right?
Okay,
Again, if
so
you're
it
moving
doesn't
into a
matter.
place, no,
It
don't.
doesn't
It does
matter if
matter. No,
laws
listen.
matter.
This guy does
Wait.
care. This guy
Okay,
does care.
listen. So if you're moving into a place, right, it is your responsibility to look up what the people living there and who lived there previously came up with for the as like the rules
Yeah,
of
no,
the place,
you're
and then
good.
follow the
I just
fucking
wanna
rules.
make sure that you
You
were
don't get to say it
ideologically
doesn't apply to me
consistent.
because I didn't know
Doesn't
about
matter.
it.
I'm
Right?
a
That's
lawyer.
bullshit.
You
And if you don't like
absolutely
if you don't like the rules, we have ways to change the rules. This guy could. I mean, I'm sure he's talking to the city council. If most of the community agrees with him, they can vote to change the fucking rule or to replace city council members who don't agree with changing the rule. It's that simple.
Do
Right?
you
You don't get
think
to just say,
laws
hey,
can
That,
be?
that's
this
not
rule
that
that you guys
wasn't
put
your
in place
argument
just
though.
doesn't apply to me.
That
Do you
that
think
was
laws
Top
can be wrong,
Dolphins.
Doobie?
Yeah, that was Top Dolphins argument. A few others. You made it pretty clear that even if the rules that these people voted upon went in this direction, you would still see it as a threat to these people. You would still see these animals as some level of threat. So why are you now appealing to? Oh, well, if these people like democratically agreed that like they're okay with this threat, it's okay.
Yeah, I think you're misunderstanding. So when I said that, hey, these are the rules, follow them as they are, and it's a good rule, right? That is totally separate from me saying, hey, if you want to change the rules, you have a way to do that. What you're advocating for, I think, is for them to give him some kind of exception to the rule, which I don't think he's
You
earned.
you describe
Right?
this guy
So
as not
what
a
I'm
rule
saying,
follower, as somebody that
he's not
came
a rule
in.
follower, right?
But how so?
Wait, listen.
He
Oh
went
my
to
God.
this village in New York, and he was looking for a building permit. Like he could have just built that stuff and waited for the government to come to him anyway. No, he wanted a building. He wanted a building permit. Then on top of that, like it seems to be like they're saying they're gonna take away his pet. And then what did he do? Is that he fought to try and keep his pet using the laws that he knew. It seems like a guy is pretty much a rule follower on everything except on the case of this pig because it matters that much to him. So why are you depicting him as someone who's not interested in following the
You don't
rules?
get a
You say he's not a
you
rule
don't get
follower,
to
but he
choose the
literally
rules.
smuggled a pig into the city.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's the definition of what he did.
And then when we was told to get
So
rid of
should
it, he
everything
didn't. So,
should
like,
this man's entire life be defined by one action? Is he not a rule follower because he brought something that
You
don't get
mattered
to
a
pick and
lot to him
choose.
to this place?
I
You
have
don't
a
get to choose.
question.
So you're not a rule
Do
follower
we-
because you let's say like, oh, you said you did one thing in your life that was illegal. Now you're branded as you're not a rule follower, Doobie.
What
No
if
matter how many times you
somebody
come in the
That's
murders-
channel.
ridiculous.
What if
Like, you're
somebody
state of
murders
Virginia,
somebody?
oral
It's just
sex
they only murdered
with
one
someone you're not
person.
married to is illegal. Like
It's so dumb.
Yeah.
You guys,
Okay,
you guys
so
dumb law.
I-
We all
go ahead.
break it.
I have a question.
No, I do.
So for this pig, is nobody like looking at this as like the owner of the pig being irresponsible to the pig itself? Because that's kind of how I'm seeing it, right? If you didn't look into these laws when bringing an animal to a place, you're kind of being I mean, if you don't look into the regulations or anything like that, let's say you move into an apartment building, and then they say, "Oh, sorry, we don't allow dogs here." I feel like that would be irresponsible towards the pet. It's not really.
True.
It's not.
I'm not fussed on the animal rights in this
But-
at all.
It's an
Which has
interesting
Another thing,
nothing- wait, it has
another
nothing
thing,
to do with
another
the
thing,
animal rights, so
another
you have
thing
a
that what I'm
responsibility to
saying,
your property.
another thing that I'm saying is that is also that I wanted to respond to what Wiggle was saying earlier, that it's just one law that he broke. People can break one law, and that is really, really bad. You know, if somebody rapes somebody one time,
Yeah,
I'm
but
just
it's bringing a
saying, you know?
pig.
I
Is
think there's some
bringing a
false
pig from
equivalency
another
there
state,
by
you know?
Stardust. I don't agree.
Well, I think it's safe to
nothing
call this guy a
immoral
lawbreaker in the context of talking about the law that he actually broke and is
But-
actively breaking.
But it's.
But
it's
anyways,
it's an
either
interesting
way,
perspective
my
to
main
Would you also
point-
throw in
My
jaywalking,
main
Stardust?
point, jaywalking,
Yeah, it breaks the law.
No,
you know.
I mean, you make a fair point that it's not really equivalent. You're right. But I guess my main point here is that I still think that the level of responsibility that's on the owner, if you have a pet, right? You are the parent of that pet, and you should be making decisions that are best for that pet. And I don't know that I can find the city fully responsible when he didn't do that, do his due diligence in that area. You are the parent of that pet. You should have done that. It's kind of irresponsible, right?
Every good
Stardust.
Tinder date
It's-
in the state of Virginia is illegal. Now, bad Tinder dates that don't have oral sex, I don't know. But every good Tinder date in the state of Virginia is illegal.
We're gonna go to
Some laws are just stupid.
Wait,
We're
hold
gonna-
on.
we're gonna go to-
You
we're gonna
keep
go to-
doing this thing where you bring up laws that aren't necessarily relevant, right? Because a lot of time, yes, there are a lot of laws that are quote unquote on the books that seem absurd, but a lot of times the reason they don't get rid of those laws is because there's more present legislation or legal precedent that contradicts those laws and makes those laws null and void without actually voting to take the law out of place.
A lot
So
of cities.
there are probably laws like the one you brought up about people wearing high heels in LA, I think it was, or California, right? That might be illegal on the books, but there are probably cases of precedent, right? As well as Supreme Court rulings when it comes to that sort of thing. That disagree with the law, so that law isn't enforceable, even though it technically exists.
So
all right? It's
okay.
But how do those
we
cases
gotta-
exist?
We gotta
Just
go to
people broke the law.
Scrawn. We're gonna go to Wiggle, and then we'll figure it out from there. All right.
Yeah, for whatever
but,
reason-
but to be clear, I just want to say I looked it up. The law that Scott was talking about, right? It seems like in one town in California, you have to get a permit to have heels large and higher than 2 inches. But it's non-enforced in this one town, so it's not no
Boy,
big deal.
you got a license for those high heels?
Pretty much.
Add Stardust to the list. Add Stardust to the list.
You can't
Okay.
call.
All right, Scrawn.
Let's be real.
Like,
Women who
so-
wear high heels look like giraffes. It's disgusting.
Okay, speak for yourself.
They walk weird.
Okay, but I'll speak for myself now to say, for Stardust's concern, I think I can acknowledge, okay, there's a concern, let's say, that we don't want people living around us who are cruel with their pets, property, whatever. I think the fact that there is an endorsement from the neighbors satisfies me on any question of that. I don't think there's such an issue on it. If everyone's basically kumbayaing around this guy for it. And I trust that they know him well enough that if he is an abuser of his animal, they probably know.
I
I
never
don't.
called him an abuser. What I'm saying is that there
I'm
are
willing
cities
to
where
entertain it.
okay, well,
Yeah.
there are cities where there are stray cat problems because people can't realize they can't take care of their cats, or their apartments don't allow cats, and then they decide to just let the cat run around free. And now we've got a whole bunch of cities with stray cat problems.
So for that to map onto this, wouldn't it have to be basically like a conspiracy of these people to be complicit in the abuse of this pig?
No, it's not even complicit in the abuse of the pig. No, this is where people get the way that I would see it happening is people would get pets that they are incapable of taking care of, or the building that they live in doesn't allow that type of pet, and as a result, they either have to surrender that pet to an animal shelter, or they just set it free like a lot of people do. And then you've got pets that normally wouldn't be in that environment now inhabiting that environment.
I mean, I'm hearing two things there. I'm hearing one, whether it's the health of the pet. I mean, the fact that the pet's alive and kicking there for one thing, and everybody seems to be cool with the guy. I think the pet's probably fine.
feel
And
irresponsible.
Wait,
on
it
his
doesn't
part.
For the
matter.
normalcy thing,
The
I
health
just
or
thought
the
this is not
abuse of the
normal.
pig is irrelevant, right?
Yeah, right.
Not
I
to
wanna
speak for
go- I wanna
Stardust,
go on the
but what
normal
Stardust
thing.
is saying is that like the act that he's doing to the pig that is wrong is not researching the laws in the case, especially when a pig is not an animal that you can own in every state or every city. Right?
I
Like,
wanna go
we're
to-
not
That
saying
is
he's a
neglect.
pig mistreater. We're saying in this specific instance, he did something that was like irresponsible to his pet. Right? You can treat your pet like very, very well and still be like an irresponsible pet owner in a different one aspect, right?
Right, like you could be walking a dog without a leash, right? Let's say.
True. Yeah, you
now,
can treat your dog super, super
I
well
think-
and then not walk without a leash. Exactly.
Yeah, when it comes to the question of this normal thing, I wanna focus on that. I'm fine to view this generally as saying, okay, let's maybe, and I think this should be the responsibility of the council. I don't see councils having, being proactive or taking initiative to look at this. They just pass the buck along and go, hey, let the lawyers handle it. I think that's a failure of the local council. I think there should be steps taken for the council to investigate and go, well, maybe this is like a guide dog situation. Maybe this is a medicinal marijuana situation, right? This isn't normal, right? We don't, we can still have the laws against this, but we can say, you know what, we should have exceptions in society, right?
I
Who's
mean,
No,
really
we
against
shouldn't have
guide
to- no, we
dogs
shouldn't.
and medicinal
Actually,
marijuana?
I agree with the council 100. The council is so fucking based. What they refuse to do is capitulate to this man who decided to abuse emotional support animal laws to get around the laws that they have on the books.
True.
That's what they do. If he wants to do, I'm now maybe
Isn't
he
that
did
what
this,
the
but there doesn't
emotional
seem to be
support animal
evidence
laws
of
are
it,
for, though?
right? There doesn't be the evidence. Maybe he went and he said, "Hey, here's a piece of legislation that you, the council, could implement that would change the classification of pigs from farm animals to domesticated pets or something like that, so that I can own my pig
How
in
is
the
that
city."
based?
And here's a
How is
bunch of
that based?
signatures from the affidavits that I have of the people who live in my area who agree that my pig is a delight and support me in this endeavor. But no, instead, what he did is he went to the council and said, "Well, this pig is my emotional support animal now because I'm going to get it registered because that process is a joke, right? And now, like, you're breaking like." I think it's like HIPAA laws or whatever the organization laws. Not HIPAA. I can't remember the organization.
But
you're
why
breaking
is this
laws
based?
if you
You
don't let me have my
acknowledge
pig
that
here.
if they
Right?
walked right up into the person's
it's
house
based because the
and
laws
killed
that
the
have to go
pig,
with the
it
emotional
would've
support
saved
animals are
everybody more
so
money.
fucking broken, dog.
Okay,
Like, I don't know if you know anything
Dolphin.
about emotional support animals law, but you can like go online and like fill out a form so that your dog can be let on planes, and then
Wait, can I get a monkey?
and it's
Dolphin, I wanna-
unverifiable, right? So like it's a violation
Yay,
of someone's
I
rights
wanna
to go
citizen.
ahead and be like, hey,
Yay.
I see your paperwork for your animal. It's
Fuck
literally a
property rights.
violation of
Fuck
rights.
people.
Who would have
I
thought?
want to follow
Yay.
Dolphin here. I
You
want
know,
to. I
Who
want to
would
ask.
have
Okay,
thought
Squan,
that a pig
Squan, finish
would be the most heated debate on this panel? Who would have known?
I wouldn't have.
No.
Apparently,
Right.
Squan,
Well,
finish the
I-
point, then I gotta go to
I
Wiggle.
want to say this. Look, for this like comfort, emotional care, animal status, right? Let's say I want to follow on Dolphin's point there. Let's say that someone says, oh, "Look, I have a guide dog. My guide dog is a pit bull," right? But then, oh no, the pit bull starts attacking people and it's barking all hours of the night and everything, right? I'm fine for then the community to be like, hey, screw this dog, that's not valid. So I'm fine for that to go both ways on it. I think you can have the appeal to say, easily to say, hey, look, it's a guide dog, whatever, and for the community to complain. It goes the other way. If that's, what's saving or getting rid of the pig.
That's not analogous. My like what I'm saying is, right, is like there's a law that says this animal is not allowed to be owned in this city, right? So let's say like this guy wanted to bring a tiger in, right? Like necessarily, right? And I understand it's not a perfect analogy, but it works for this case. This guy wants to bring a tiger into the city. And he said the council's some guy comes over, the tiger's been living there, they haven't had any problems with neighbor, and the guy from the inspection for the building permit that he's getting to do renovations on his house comes in, he sees the tiger, is like, oh, you can't have that here. Comes back later, he says, oh, you still have that here? Like, we're gonna let's see this through.
Tigers
And-
are like
no,
tigers
stop,
are
because you're being dumb.
Stupid
Wiggle.
analogy.
I'm not being dumb at all.
So
It's
then,
actually,
instead
it's
of
actually
like
very
saying,
intelligent.
hey, I should be able to have
Tigers-
tigers here, what he does is he goes and says, well, now I've registered my tiger as an emotional support animal, so like, boom, roasted.
Tigers
this is
are
my tiger
exotic
now.
animals,
No, so I
and you
can
have to
respond
ask
to that.
yourself,
Look.
how do they even get the tiger? It's illegal to breed tigers, and right?
Let's-
And it's like, how would he even
Wait,
get the
there's-
tiger?
wait, maybe
So it's the
maybe he's
promotion
in
of an
Las
illegal.
Vegas. I think it's
the
illegal
promotion.
to have tigers in Las Vegas.
Okay,
or
well,
whatever,
did they get
So
it
he
from
bought
Las
a tiger
Vegas?
from another
Top
place
dog.
where he bought it legally.
Wiggle,
I wanna
Wiggle's your
respond to
turn.
Dolphin.
Wiggle's your turn. I'm sorry, I'm not sure if you still want to go, but then, Scott.
Okay, for this was like not what I want to talk about. I'll talk about this. It's a promotion of something that's like a exotic animal breeding. That's kind of different. It's like you can have like a farm animal, like a pet, and I imagine many states you can have them in specific capacities.
Yeah,
Whereas
and there's
like
also
having
many
a
states where you
tiger,
can't,
it's
though.
very different. Yeah, so it's like talking about a tiger. Yes, I understand you're saying it's not a perfect analogy because the tiger is a violent animal to some degree or what have you, playing off of what Doobie was saying. But I'd say it's different because it's an exotic animal. So a better analogy would be like another animal you're likely not to have that isn't some form of exotic animal that's playing into like a black market for exotic animals that we're trying to quell. Outside of that, I'd say like when you guys are talking about like the idea of being a caretaker for an animal and thinking about it that way, I think that's interesting, and because I think that Stardust, you have you and I guess Top Dolphin now have a better approach to this than the government does in that area. Because like you should think about it that way. I think that makes more sense to say, hey, if you're able to caretake for this animal and you're able to keep this animal to a certain capacity, and it's an animal that is in a specific category of animals that we allow people to have, then it shouldn't be a problem. It shouldn't be a problem unless it causes harm to people outside your like the location the animal's kept. And that sounds far more ethical to me than saying, well, no matter what, that animal's an animal, a farm animal. It's not a pet. It seems to be that's what the town's saying. They're saying, we don't care if you consider it a pet. We don't care what you do to make it considered a pet. We view it as a farm animal no matter what. And it doesn't matter if you're really ethical with it. It doesn't matter how you feed it or what you do, because just having it in your capacity is wrong. And I think that's a change that would be better. I would actually advocate for that. Yeah, that was basically all I want to say.
You
Look at
probably
Wiggle
don't
not
even
engaging
need
with any of the
laws
points
So-
at all.
about
Oh
which
my
animals
God,
you're
all
allowed to
went
own
over his head.
specifically.
I want to engage
When's
with
my
the
How did I
turn?
not engage with the
Wait,
point?
where's my turn? When's my turn? Is it my turn now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. So, so somebody brought this to my attention, but if you look at this article, it says a note from a nurse practitioner saying Ellie helped Flat get off medication is in dispute. And while he keeps it in his wallet he keeps in his wallet a laminated card illustrated with the headshot of Ellie saying she's a registered emotional support animal, the village's attorney said it was obtained online for a fee with no formal legal process. Defendant provided no legitimate proof that he is a person under disability and no proof that his disability was remedied by having an emotional support animal, nor that the particular animal, a pig, was the only suitable remedy for his condition, attorney Kirsten Dunn wrote in a filing last year. So I do think that that's,
Did you,
you know,
just
I think, I'm
Oh
sorry?
my God, Stardust, you're so based.
did you just now read the article?
Yeah, that was.
I
The article
skimmed
also-
over it earlier, but I didn't read it in detail, to be honest with you. So, but yeah,
If he's
that's
abusing the
interesting.
law, like I have no problem with him being
Yeah.
deceptive to defend himself against the law that itself is unjust, right? So if
Sure,
he's
sure.
doing
I
this-
would
You have
still
no
if it's
say,
bullshit that
I
it's
would
an
still
emotional
say,
support animal,
breaking
that's
other
Sure,
laws
sure, sure,
because like this
sure.
one law is quote unquote
Sure.
unjust, which you haven't
Well,
demonstrated that this law is
wait,
unjust. By the
You haven't
way,
demonstrated that he's breaking the law.
Hey,
wait,
still my
he,
turn.
he is. The
It's
council
still
did.
my fucking
go,
turn.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Okay, so I just brought that up because we were talking about it as an emotional support animal. I'm sorry for yelling. But sorry for that. But so I would still say that if this is true, that this is that he did this like to skirt around a law, it still could be seen as irresponsible towards that animal, right? It's like, again, like if you own a cat, right, and you're moving apartments, you would want to make sure that the apartment you're moving to allows you to have a cat, and so that you don't have to abandon it later, right? Because it does create problems and it puts that animal in danger. Even if that animal is alive, it puts it in danger. I don't think that's right. I don't think that you should be doing that to your animal. So,
But that's the town isn't arguing about that. The town's arguing that it would lead to more people having these pets, and the pets are a danger to humans.
well,
Not that.
here. Let me counter you here. Okay, so I could very well see that it leading to being more people getting those pets, and those people being irresponsible towards those pets as well. Because that is how cities with a stray cat population happen.
But we see this. We see in like it's not pets. It's not tied to pets. But we see this with like I think what is it? Scron brought up jaywalking. In like New York City, you have people like that just jaywalk all the time. Like anytime I go to the city, even tourists, people that
Right,
aren't even
but
fucking from New
if we're
York,
talking
come
about
and do
something that's
this.
like analogous, right? Like, and he made a very good point, right? He made a very good
Yeah.
point earlier that like me comparing a murder to breaking a law is not really analogous.
But I'm
We're
not
talking about
comparing the situations. I'm comparing the idea of breaking the law.
right,
that makes
sure, but
sense.
even breaking the law, like this is we're not talking about. I'm not even talking from a legal perspective. If the other people decide, well, I want a pet pig too, and they realize they can't take care of that pig, or they realize their building doesn't allow that pig, then what happens to those pigs? It's irresponsible to those animals who have now become dependent on their owner, who are dependent on humans, right? For these people to have to abandon them.
But
So-
what if in the scenario where like I think you guys were talking about or Prime brought up the town in California where like the law Scott brought up is about the high heels and how like it's not enforced.
Well, how is that irresponsible to a pet? How is
Oh
high
no,
heels
I'm
in
just
any way related to that?
I'm not bringing up the high heels for that reason. I'm just bringing up the idea of a law that is not enforced. And so it's like and then broaching
Does
that to the
that
idea that
change? Does that change that it's irresponsible towards that pet?
what I'm saying is
I'm talking about the
how do we get to
responsibility towards the pet.
yeah, so how do we get to a point in which people get the chance to be activists in this case? Like why like how do we get to that chance? Is that somebody breaks the law and then at that point in time like we have some sort of legal ramification, people fight this in
standing.
court. Yeah. So like
you
how
have
do
to
you
break the
So
law in order to
people
even
need
challenge the law via the court.
people need to break the law in order to challenge irresponsible pet owners who
Yes,
create
that's how our justice system
compromising
works.
would you
compromising
want
positions
would
for
you
animals.
want
So
yeah.
how many animals have to be in these compromising positions for that to be justified then? Like I don't know, I feel like that's kind of shitty.
Well, how
Like, how many-
compromising
how
is
much-
the
This,
position
how
you
really?
know what
much-
this is? This is literal victim blaming. Is you're saying the state has an immoral law that it imposes upon people that no
How's it-
one cares about except the property owner, and you're saying, how dare you put them in the jeopardy because you moved into a place? No, that's the state that is creating
Okay,
that.
if you
fucking
have a
distinction.
child,
The
you have
state
a
is
child-
the perpetrator of the difficulty here, not the property owner.
if you have a child, right, and you move to a place that's not good for that child, that's kind of shitty, right?
Well, it's not a good idea, but it doesn't absolve the people who make it shitty for the child.
Exactly.
Make that place shitty for the child. So
Yeah, but
you
why
know,
would you put the child in that position in the first place?
well, you shouldn't. But
Yeah, but
it
then
doesn't.
you'd have to
but it's
ask
still-
that-
We'd need
You'd-
like a billion more pieces of
You-
information to
you'd
understand
have to-
why
you'd have to
a
ask that to
parent
the
moved to
people-
a bad neighborhood.
So
Like,
it's
it's
part
like
of,
if there was
part
a
of the
country
people
where
that live
children
there.
were illegal, and so they were rounded up and executed or something horrible like that, then it would be bad for you to bring a child to that place, but it would also be bad of that place to do that in the first place, right? These can both be true.
I have
And
a question.
really, it's
on
kind of
this.
worse.
Do you blame
of that
the
place.
women that got pregnant during China's one-child policy for the murders that occurred in China? Or is
No,
that
well, I
China's
would-
problem?
What I would compare it to,
Curious.
right, is like a place where you have to like abandon your child, right? Like if
Right,
you
no,
have to
women did
abandon
that.
your
They had
child.
children, right? Under the one-child policy, they had children. And then what they were forced to do is take them to grocery markets so that they could be in the public, and they would leave their child there, and everyone would walk around and watch the baby cry until it died from starvation and lack of attention. And this happened to the scores of hundreds of thousands because the Chinese government instituted a one-child policy. Now, should we admonish the women for choosing to have unprotected sex in China and say that they're the real problem here? Or maybe it's the Chinese Communist Party that inflicted this terrible thing upon the women in China. And the real issue here is the law that is immoral and not necessarily the individuals that chose or didn't choose or had some negotiation in why they broke that law.
Also,
I
the,
think-
the
I have a
law.
question for
I
Stardust.
think
I think
law
you're-
is
you're-
Wait, okay, hold on. We got lots of things going. Scrawn, and since you're going to talk to
I'll let everybody respond to that.
Yeah, so Stardust, you bring a child analogy into this. You say it's not good to bring a child to a place where they could have their safety risked, right? Basically.
Yeah, like to a
Um,
bar or something.
Would
Yeah.
you also admonish a woman who wants to bring her child along to a protest or crossing the border?
Mm. So crossing the border is a complicated one because a lot
Sure.
of the times they're fleeing a
If you don't want to
situation
answer,
that is
that's
worse.
fine. Sure.
No.
Sure.
It's I'm answering. It's
Okay,
a lot of
okay.
the times they're fleeing a situation which is worse for that child, right? So
Oh,
they
yeah,
wouldn't.
sure.
Yeah. So in a way they are doing the best that they can there, right? What was the other scenario you brought up?
To bring into a protest
A protest.
with
I
that
guess
risk of, you know.
it really, I mean, it really depends because a lot of protests are peaceful, right?
But you know, let's say it turns into a riot, right? Was the mother who brought her child along and you know, or went pregnant
I
to
mean, that's
one
not
and
something you can really
miscarried as a
predict,
result?
right? That's something. That's
I
something. Yeah, that's not something
I
you
would
can
say
really
that if a
predict.
woman brought a child to a violent protest that she knew was actively violent, I
No,
would
no, 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 no.
admonish that
I'm
woman.
saying,
I
well,
would say
hold,
that
hold on.
woman is
No,
a
no, no, Dolphin. Excuse
terrible
me,
person.
Dolphin. Look, what
Right?
I'm saying is that these are similar. The answers that Stardust is giving, I think, sound similar to answers that I would see people
It's not
make for the pig
similar.
owner. Because
It's
it said,
not
well,
similar
look,
to
the
the
pig owner
pig.
didn't go with the intention of having the pig harmed, of course, right? You know, just like the pregnant woman at a protest didn't expect, you know, to
Okay,
get
so let me
shot by
break
riot
this
police,
down.
right?
But they could
Let
have
me
known
break the.
because it's illegal.
Hey. Okay. Sorry.
Illegal to riot.
I'm responding. I'm responding to this. Okay. So the pig owner could have known that this property that they were moving to was not allowing pigs, right? That is something that you can predict beforehand. As far as a protest, there are tons of peaceful protests. That is not something that you can really predict beforehand.
So you're saying could have known, is that the same as should have known? Like you'd basically say, hey, if you're moving to a place like this pig owner, you know, the onus is on
You
them
should
that
do
they
the
should do.
research. Yeah,
Well, I
you
mean, like, just
should.
so we're clear, you're basically arguing the same as Doobie here, where, you know, they should come through the, you know, the book on, you know, what the
I
laws
think
are
they
on it.
should. I think if it has to do with the risk of having to abandon your pet that is reliant on you, then then you should be doing the research to make sure that doesn't happen.
Hey, Stardust,
like,
real quick,
why don't
would
we
you
talk
want to
about
answer
something
my
all the
that's
question?
time
more?
with people who have
we-
to move into apartments that
I'm
don't
just
allow
really
dogs and
interested
cats.
for-
Just real quick.
we
just
can
real
talk about
quick.
something more
Do you
I want
want
to
to
reasonable.
finish on
answer
that
my
one. I want to
question,
finish on that
Stardust?
one.
Be Squan, you gotta be quick, and then we
Yeah,
we go to
I want,
Doobie, and then Briss hasn't
yeah.
spoken in a while, and we'll go to Wiggle.
What Stardust ended on there is the pet being reliant on the owner. I think there's the struggle there is the question between the pet being reliant on the owner and how much the owner is reliant on the pet for mental health and everything. I think that's like the core argument, I guess.
The pet
Okay,
the pet
alright,
is
alright.
still the lower being with less intelligence who is
Let's-
reliant more on the owner.
Let's go to
Just
another
real-
lower
just
being.
real quick,
Well, hold on.
super
Let's go
quick.
to another lower being. We're going to Doobie. Go
Just
ahead,
want to
please.
answer my question. that's all.
My God, we got to move. We got a lot of people. We got a little bit of time.
Okay,
Doobie.
too good, too based. I got it.
Okay.
Well, I actually wanted to answer your question, Scott. So the one child policy thing. So if a woman, right, and a man decided to have unprotected sex after they already had a child, and they had another child, right, and this other birth led to that child being like killed by the government because of the one child policy, whatever, or there was like a forced abortion, right? Then yeah, I would blame the woman. I would blame the man, right? Because they were aware of these consequences of these rules before having the sex. They chose not to have protected sex. They chose not to take something afterwards,
Would you
right?
blame
To
them
prevent
exclusively?
to prevent the pregnancy. So it is
Doobie.
absolutely their fault.
Doobie,
Would you
Doobie,
blame them
real quick,
exclusively?
Doobie, real
or would you
quick.
also blame the government
Doobie,
for?
Doobie, real
I wouldn't
quick.
blame the government at all. I think
Doobie,
the
real
one
quick.
child policy
Doobie,
might have
real
been a
quick.
pretty sensible policy given the issues that China had at the time.
Doobie,
They were
real
dealing with
quick.
massive birth
Doobie,
rates.
real quick. Doobie, real quick. I knew that you would bite the bullet on an incomprehensible.
It's not
and
a bullet.
horrible take. I just wanted to know if Stardust would
Oh,
do it.
God.
Keto.
It's not a. Can you explain?
I think it's a little. If you want me to answer that, sure. I do think that it's a shitty law for that government to have, but I do also think that you should be doing everything within your power to not have to put a baby in that situation.
Let's go
All
to.
right, there you go.
Yeah, I don't see how this is a bullet at all. I think I think you're maybe being a little. Either you're just being dishonest, or you're not thinking through this like fully. If you're calling this a bullet or like something like just terrible.
Let's say
Right.
that, yeah, obviously the
We
government
know
is
that's the
at
tactic of
fault,
yours.
but
Us call people dishonest. when they
obviously
leave.
the government is at fault. But if you're a parent then you should be taking every precaution possible to make sure you don't have to leave a child starving and crying.
Yeah, but I think
till it
even framing
dies.
it in that way, Stardust, even framing it in the way that the government is at fault, right, is I think weird, because the government put this policy in place because they're dealing with massive birth rates, an explosion of the population that they could not sustain, right? They had lots of people
Sure.
starving and dying because of this, right? They
Well, because
couldn't
of
sustain these
communism.
people. So sure, see, it's because of communism, but the reality was they couldn't sustain the amount of people that were being born in this country, right? So to nip the problem in the bud, right? So they wouldn't have to deal with tens of thousands of people starving. They decided, hey, only have one kid, or actually it was one birth, right? Because sometimes people had twins, and they let them keep the twins, right? So it sounded like they had to pick which kid to keep. So, if people had decided, like, knowing the situation
that
that
would
their
be
country
too
was,
far.
knowing the situation that their country was in, and knowing what the consequences for a pregnancy, right after they've already got one kid, right? If they chose to have unprotected sex anyway, and then to carry that baby to term, hey, that's their, yeah. I don't think the government's at fault at all in that situation. I think it is absolutely their fault.
Chris.